Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. And welcome to another episode of Reviews Without Remorse. I am Joe, and with me, as always, is my good buddy David. What's going on, partner?
Howdy doody. I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I am doing good, fighting a little bit of a cold, but otherwise I am spectacular. This is episode number 98. In this episode, it is a no news episode because the year is over. That means only one thing and one thing only. This is Joe's, my top 10 top movies of the year, plus 3 stink bombs. How are you doing, my friend? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too, and I am looking forward to this.
Me too.
Mostly because I still have a couple of films to catch up on, and it's possible that your top 10 list is going to inform on my top 10 list.
So, as we always do with this one, like I said, there's no news. We're just going to jump right in. I got a whole hour to fill, so that means I'm going to cheat my brains out and talk about my also noteds, my also rans, my honorable mentions, my dishonorable mentions, and we'll see how it goes.
Rock on, sir. Let's get it right to it.
Okay, so, again, the usual disclaimers, just my personal opinion. If you don't like it, you're wrong and I'm right. And I also didn't see everything out this year, of course. There was just a couple that I really was trying to see before we got to the end of the year. The Rider, Thoroughbreds, Wildlife, Border, Mary Poppins Returns, Return to Marwen, and Green Book are the ones I didn't get to. Green Book especially was the one that I was hoping to catch before the year was out, but that's okay. So now... Hush! Savior of the universe! Let's get into my honorable mentions. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs by the Coen brothers, straight to Netflix. Terrific. You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix. Pretty riveting, pulls no punches thriller. Summer of '84. Very good movie. Very typical of the kinds of things we've been getting these days. The kind of Stranger Things or It type of films with the young kids in the 80s. But with some twists that I honestly did not see coming, so it was pretty good. Mandy with Nicolas Cage was pretty fabulous.
Wow.
Did you see that one?
No, I'm just shocked that you would bring up a Nicolas Cage movie.
This was pretty wild. That was a pretty wild film. It was, it was sort of like pulls no punches, crazy over the top, very violent, a grindhouse throwback, and just really well done. The visuals were spectacular. Really cool movie. Again, it's like if you're going to do a movie like that, do it right, and you end up with something like Mandy. Bad Times at the El Royale, a pretty fun Quentin Tarantino-esque type thriller. I enjoyed that one very much. Leave No Trace, small little indie film about a father who's a Vietnam vet and can't seem to get past his PTSD. It's weird. It's weird, but it's very good, very engaging. Christopher Robin. Now, I know we've seen a lot of stuff like that come out, a lot of crap where they dig up just everything from your childhood and turn it into a movie where, everybody's falling down and whatever. This really did sort of hold the charm of the original Winnie the Pooh. I thought it was very faithful to its source material. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised by it. Nice. A Quiet Place. No surprise there. Everybody's been talking about that one. It's a very original premise. Definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat. Game Night. That was a comedy. That was another pleasant surprise. Again, I kind of feel like every year you get one or two decent comedies. This was the one this year. I laughed pretty hard at this one. I enjoyed it a lot. Chappaquiddick. Political expose. Very great performances. I enjoyed that one very much. The actor in there, whose name I'm going to forget, who played Ted Kennedy, really does a stellar performance, and I kind of forgot it was even him.
Jason Clarke, his name is.
Thank you, Jason Clarke. Very good performance. Alpha, a pretty small movie, kind of under the radar, basically about... It takes place in prehistoric times. And then this kid, the bond he makes, a survival movie when he kind of befriends this wolf, who I suppose the angle was this was sort of the first time we domesticated dogs. If this budget was just a little bit higher, you would have had something that I think a lot of people would have been talking about. It was really well done. And actually very close to being on my top 10.
Damn.
That's it for honorable mentions, my friend.
That's a huge honorable mention list.
Brother, I got a whole hour to fill here.
I'm a little worried about me next week.
Okay, the best films of 2018, starting with number 10.
Squadron 14! Die!
Number 10, and no one is more surprised than I am that this is on my list, Searching.
911, what's your emergency?
I'm calling to report a missing person.
Okay, who is this regarding? My daughter.
Wow, really?
Yes, directed by Anish Chakante and written by Anish Chaganti and Sev Ohanian. Boy, did I mangle that.
Sincerely.
I resisted this one as hard as I could. I really did. I can't stand those sort of found footage movies or a film that's all going to take place through your laptop in some way, shape, or form, like Unfriended and all that kind of silly stuff. Mm-hmm. But I just heard so much good buzz about it. I said, well, let me give it a shot. And I have to tell you, I was really pulled into this. It was a solid mystery. I was really pretty enthralled. It got me early on, and I honestly just couldn't turn it away. I was even having trouble streaming it, and I ended up just breaking down and just renting it because I was so into what was happening. I wanted to see how this was going to play out. So yeah, like I said, no one is more surprised than me that this is actually on my top 10, but it is.
Wow, nice start. I like that. You subverted my expectations.
There's actually, for a change, I think you will actually be surprised by a lot of things on this list. There are some that I'm positive that will surprise you, and I know that you love to predict my top 10s as I go down the list. I will throw you a couple times in here, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. You already have, so it's a good start.
Number 9, Isle of Dogs.
We get the idea. You're looking for your lost dog spots. Does anybody know it?
No.
I've lost all of my pride.
Directed by Wes Anderson and screenplay by Wes Anderson. Holy cow, this is Wes Anderson on steroids. I feel like Wes Anderson is he's already magical in the way he does his films. You know, his color, his characters, his dialogue, it's all brilliant. I kind of feel like he really took it up a notch by getting into animation. The animation here was so creative, so inventive. It was so charming, and I absolutely just loved every minute of it. And I honestly don't usually have animated movies on my top 10s. But this one was terrific. I really loved it.
Did you see The Fantastic Mr. Fox, also directed by Wes Anderson?
I did not, but I probably will have to check it out.
I will make sure you have that, sir, because that is a good one.
Thank you, sir. Number 8, another one that kind of came out of left field. Sorry to Bother You.
This is telemarketing. Stick to the script.
Hey, hello. Mr. Davison, Cassius Green here. Sorry to bother.
Let me give you a tip. You want to make some money here? Use your white voice.
My white voice?
I'm not talking about Will Smith's wife, like this young blood.
Hey, Mr. Kramer. This is Langston from Regal View.
Written and directed by Boots Riley, who is actually known for doing musical scores and not so much directing. But wow, was this interesting. Did you see this, by the way?
It's on my list.
Do you know what it is?
I know. I generally know what it is. Please don't spoil anything. I understand that there's a cool little aspect to it that I don't want to know about until I see it.
It's absolutely just wild. And again, this was one of those where I didn't know what it was. I just heard it was good, so I kind of went in pretty blind. And it was hysterical. It was absolutely a satire. It was social commentary. But it just sort of pulled all the stops and just said, and it was like there was no boundaries, there was no nothing. So it starts out kind of weird, gets funkier, and then just goes full blown Looney Tunes. It was very, I mean, it really kind of kept me going, what? Like, so I really enjoyed this one, and I definitely recommend it.
All right. Nice.
Number 7, probably one that you will not be surprised at, and ironically, it's my other animated film, Into the Spider-Verse.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Miles Morales. I'm the one and only Spider-Man. At least that's what I thought.
Of course.
Oh my God, was this thing, I mean, just incredibly, wildly creative. The screenplay was solid. The animation style was so much fun. It was definitely groundbreaking. You know, I mean, to the point where you almost kind of had to sort of rethink how you see animation and sort of adjust to it. Mm-hmm. But it was wildly successful. And what a great way to bring some classic Spider-Man characters to the screen. I mean, this was great. It just sort of pulled out all the stops, and we saw characters that I would never have guessed that I would have seen on the big screen at all. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Did you get to see it twice? You said you wanted to see it again.
I would have liked to have seen it again. I did not see it again.
Okay.
But I'm sure. But as soon as it's out, you know, as soon as it's on video, I will definitely grab my nephew and sit and watch it. It was terrific.
Excellent.
Number 6, Upgrade.
I need your permission to operate independently.
Permission granted!
Thank you.
Wow.
Written and directed by Lee Wannell, who is also known more for acting and writing than for actually directing, but wow, is that a great movie.
You're talking about the movie that I made fun of with the Venom trailer?
Yes. When this trailer first came out, we thought this is going to be Venom, right? This looks like Venom. This is basically what Venom wished it was. This thing was tremendous. This thing, again, pulls out all the stops. I've heard it referred to as body horror in some. I would not say that. I would just say that this is the kind of movie where you have very realistic violence, and if this sort of a story played out this way, yeah, it would get graphic. It would get pretty ugly at times. But boy, was it! I mean, the story was spot on. There was nothing that I second guessed or doubted. It made perfect sense. Stylish and just very inventive and creative. The action scenes in this are amazing, and the guy who's doing it is also amazing. I would almost have to wonder if some of that was done using some sort of a CGI effect, because, and again, I don't want to ruin anything, but you have sort of you can tell in the trailer. The trailer basically lets you know that this is sort of an unwilling protagonist whose body is doing things. So the fact that this guy, his body can do one thing, yet his face says something completely different. Either this guy is wildly talented, or they must have maybe employed some sort of a CGI to sort of blend together to get this effect. But the final product is spectacular. I really enjoyed the hell out of it.
Excellent. Nice. And we're in your top 5 now already.
Already into my top 5. Boy, I got to slow down. See, this is what I'm saying.
There's no law saying we have to be an hour, Joe. This is our top 10 for the year. Just run with it, okay?
This is true. Number 5, finally, something that will not surprise you, Creed 2.
Victor Drago, son of Ivan Drago, who infamously killed Apollo Creed, appeared today to issue a challenge to Adonis Creed.
Don't do this.
I ain't got a choice.
That's the same thing your father said, and he died right here in my hands.
Creed, wait, actually I am surprised. Why is that not up?
Creed 2, my friend, directed by Stephen Cable Jr., written by Jewel Taylor and Sylvester Stallone. Again, who would have guessed? How many? I mean, we reviewed this film, so I won't even get that deep into it. Who would have guessed that? This, again, the last 3 Rocky films have been home runs each. Rocky Balboa, which I doubted before it came out. It proved me wrong. When they went for Creed, I was like, no, don't do it, leave well enough alone. Creed was a home run. And when they mentioned Creed 2, and when they said they were going to bring back Ivan Drago, I was like, no, this is it. They're finally going to... No. They did not drop the ball. What they gave us was absolutely stellar, almost to the point. Retcon is not the correct word, but boy, did they even shine a different light on Rocky IV and sort of pull it all together into a symphony of a franchise. I could not believe they pulled this off. It had all the heart and soul of the ones that led up to it, and it was just really spectacular.
I like to think of it as Creed 2, the Drago redemption.
Very much so. Number 4.
Ooh, this is where it's going to get good.
Annihilation.
You have to tell me where he was, what he was doing.
It was his decision to go in. It's something they termed the Shimmer.
We've sent in drones and teams of people, but nothing comes back. But something has.
Ooh. Written and directed by Alex Garland, based on the novel of the same name by Jeff Vandermeer. Holy cow. You know, it seems like we're getting one really good, smart science fiction every year. From Ex Machina to Arrival. This year was Annihilation. And boy, was this thing the thinking man's science fiction film. Mm-hmm. The themes that it gets into in this film are so spectacular. Like, I listened to an excerpt of an interview with the director, and he was saying that the great thing about doing science fiction, he says, usually you have a story and you're trying to inject some themes into the story. He goes, when you're doing science fiction, your theme can just run wild. And he absolutely does it. When you look at this film, what it ends up being, I mean, it's a psychological thriller for once, but he gets into the mutation is a factor, and mutation can be beautiful, whether it's the flowers in the shape of people, or it could be hideous, like the half bear, half human thing. I mean, wow, is that good? And the sort of subtext has a lot to do with and we talked about it, the self-defeating-ness that we all sort of have. Everybody in this film is damaged in some way. And that factors in to how things play out. They explore that, and the final product again is just sort of. I was mesmerized throughout the whole film, and the look of it was beautiful. It was a fascinating film, and a lot of things on my list I sort of found to be very underrated, frankly, and I think this is a great example of that. It was a really underrated gem.
I would have thought higher, but please continue.
Number 3, Avengers Infinity War.
The entire time I knew him, he only ever had one goal. To wipe out half the universe. If he gets all the Infinity Stones, he can do it with the snap of his fingers. Just like that.
Tell me his name again.
Thanos.
All right.
Directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, with an ensemble cast. This is a culmination of years and years of work, and the final product is an absolute masterpiece. I remember when I first saw it, I stumbled, and I wasn't sure how to grade it, because again, it tricks you. I mean, again, I'm expecting an Avengers story, and if you look at it as an Avengers story, which it's called, boy, does that ending suck. Mm-hmm. When you sort of realize that they've sort of put one over on you, and this is essentially Thanos' story, then suddenly it's like, well, that's a different animal. And this thing really was pretty brilliant. When you see the other films trying desperately to put together something to compete with this or to compare with it, I mean, again, this one makes everyone else look like rank amateurs. This thing was absolutely spectacular, and it's just amazing that this franchise can keep going at the level that it's going. Absolutely knocked out. I did see it a second time, and the second time I loved it even more than the first time. So, number 2, we're in the top 2, my friend. Number 2, Mission Impossible Fallout.
You had a terrible choice to make in Berlin. One life over millions. And now the world is at risk.
This is the CIA's mission. If he had held on to the plutonium, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
His team would be dead.
Yes, they would. That's the job.
Written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Wow, this has reset the bar as far as action films go. I really think that a lot of action films are really going to have to take a good hard look at this film and say, wow, they've really brought it up a notch, and that's the bar. That they've raised the bar. I absolutely loved it, and it's kind of amazing how this franchise has been, as far as I'm concerned, incredibly. It's been amazingly consistent. The first 1 and 2 were good. They weren't spectacular, and then they keep getting better and better and better. So, I mean, the quality of these films now, it's like when I went to see this, I honestly expected a spectacular film, and I think my expectations were exceeded. So I really have to hand it to these guys, and Christopher McQuarrie is a guy that I think people should watch. Just doing spectacular work.
Out of the gate, McQuarrie hit it out of the park with The Usual Suspects. That was his first screenplay. So the guy always had it, but seems like he works better solo.
I agree completely. Which means it's time for our number one best film of the year.
I have no clue what it is, actually. I really don't.
I know you don't.
So this is going to be amazing.
This will be a surprise for you, I guarantee.
Okay, hit me.
Number 1, Hereditary.
It's heartening to see so many strange new faces here today. I know my mom would be very touched and probably a little suspicious. My mother was a very secretive and private woman. It's Grandma. You know you were her favorite, right? Even when you were a little baby, she wouldn't let me feed you because she needed to feed you.
Who's gonna take care of me?
You don't think I'm gonna take care of you?
But when you die.
Wow!
Written and directed by Ari Aster. Yes. His directorial debut, no less.
Dude, that's why you put it on the calendar.
I did. Right, the secret's out. Listen, it's funny. The last year we had, it was a similar situation. There was a really good horror movie, and that everyone was getting excited about, and there was a great horror movie that nobody was talking about. And I feel like this year is very similar, where you have everyone talking about A Quiet Place, which was very good, a very original concept, executed very competently. This one is a masterpiece. This one harkens back to films like The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby. It's got little hints of The Babadook in it.
Wow.
And The Shining. I mean, if these are movies that you like, these great classic slow burn horror movies, then you absolutely positively have to watch this film. It blew me away when I saw it, and honestly, I kind of felt like nothing has sort of knocked it off its perch since. And this company, by the way, the A24, it's become the answer to the other schlock horror crap that comes out. They had The Witch was last year, was amazing. They had It Comes at Night, which was another one that was on my top 10 list. Too. I thought that was terrific. And this one, I honestly, it blew me away. I think it was the only film this year that I called my brother and I said, "Have you seen this yet? See it now, because it is that good."
Damn.
I really think it's masterful how they did this. Everything, it was just so well done. And this actually, I've seen this on people's. I saw it on at least one bottom list. No. Sorry, this is a spectacular piece of work. And I highly recommend people check it out. When you see it, try to forget all the hype that I'm giving it, and just take it for what it is. But honestly, you will watch it, and then you'll look back on it and go, "Oh yeah." I mean, it's almost got a Sixth Sense kind of a vibe when you can go back and pick apart things that happened, and now things make a lot more sense. It's the kind of smart horror film that we don't see a lot of. And this was really blew me away. And again, I'm not even into horror movies because there's not enough good ones. But this one was honestly spectacular. I think as a directorial debut from Ari Aster, holy cow. So I was just blown away, and I really think it was the best film this year.
Yeah! It's for every one of us. Stand for every one of us. It's saving the body and every man, every woman, every child, everybody flash.
I am impressed by that list, sir. Bravo.
Thank you, sir.
Great. And now I have to watch Hereditary. I was planning on it anyway.
You do.
It's on my list of the movies I still have to catch up on. I was actually going to watch it tomorrow night. I think I'll watch it tonight.
If you have the night to yourself, I definitely recommend it. Some other honorable mentions that I didn't mention purposely because I felt like if I named all of them, then I wouldn't have any surprises left on my list. But we did have a stellar year as far as superhero films went. The Black Panther was great. Ant-Man and the Wasp, 2 solid Marvel films. Deadpool 2 was a terrific follow-up to an amazingly original film. Aquaman,
who'd have thunk?
I fully admit, I fully admit that we are grading on a curve, and they just threw everything at this but the kitchen sink, but it was still a lot of fun. And the other one that I think was worth mentioning was Solo.
I agree. Not
a great film, but had some solid potential, and it definitely softened me up after the offensive The Last Jedi. I definitely enjoyed Solo. Which means
stinkers.
It's time.
Stinkers.
It's time for the stinkers. And honestly, these will surprise you too.
What? No, I doubt it.
I'm willing to bet there's some surprises in here because again, like every year, I don't seek out the crap just so I could say, oh, this movie was terrible. I mean, if it looks awful, I will just skip it. But if I'm expecting something from it and it's disappointing, that's how it becomes a stinker on my list. We saw a lot of just kind of stinkers this year. We reviewed them. Tomb Raider was a stink bomb. Predator was a stink bomb. Venom is another one.
We should make sure the audience understands that we live in a world that of those 3, surprisingly, Venom is the best one.
I suppose, yeah, I guess, but that's not saying much.
I'm just giving the tiniest bit of props because we made a lot of fun. We made a lot of fun of Venom. But we actually wound up, at least semi-liking it more than those other 2 crap fests.
Agreed. But again, I'm paying $10. I chuckled twice. I expect a little bit more than that. And the other one that was just a turd that we saw this year was the girl in the spider's web. My official dishonorable mentions. Action Point. And this one, unfortunately, I was really kind of hoping for something from because of the basis of the film, frankly. This was based on an actual park, an action park
when we were growing up.
That is seriously. I mean, we went there when we were growing up. We all got the cuts and scrapes and burns from going there. So honestly, I was genuinely sort of hoping for something from this film. Wow, is it just a dud? It was really a dud, and it was terrible. Another one that I had some hope for, Super Troopers 2.
Yeah.
Only because, the first one, that was one of those films where I laughed so hard that I couldn't breathe when I saw the first one. There were parts in that film that I was rolling, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it. And then years later, they decided, okay. And I saw it, and again, it was just the same old tired stuff. I'd seen it already. There was nothing interesting about it, and it did not have the same energy as the original by any stretch. The other dishonorable mention, Ocean's 8.
Shocking.
and not that I expected anything from this. This was not something I sought out, but I did see it. And again, it kind of in the same vein as the Ghostbusters the year before, a remake that it was just only redone to do it with women. And again, that's fine. But if you're going to do it right. I literally watched this film and I was like, is this a remake or is it a sequel? Because they literally just beat for beat, step for step, did everything the original did. I mean, they literally started it. It opens up with her sitting before the parole board. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, is this going to just be a total replay of the first one? And it was less enjoyable. They let her out. She's basically a grifter. So she starts scamming people out of money. And it's like, well, I don't want to, like, that's not a likable character. When Danny Ocean was doing this for the love of his wife, this one was doing it for revenge against a guy. Again, it's different, but that's not as nice. I'm not going to root for that as much as I rooted for love. And again, there was literally times when I was watching this film when I saw one character walk over to the other one, which was basically the scene where Rusty comes up to say something to Danny Ocean, and he says, "We got to talk." Literally, as she was walking up, I said, "We got to talk," and she goes, "We got to talk." I mean, it was like beat for beat. Like you knew every word before they said it. And then the whole point of the probably get a little too carried away with this.
You haven't even gotten to your actual top 3 stinkers. You may want to dial it back a little bit. Dial it back.
When the finale comes and the whole heist is pulled off because they pull a character out of the original to just do it for them. Okay, whatever. I'm not getting it anymore. So that's Ocean's 8.
All right.
The last honorable mention, dishonorable mention, and it's not a bad film. It's not a terrible film, but if you want to pay $10 to go see a Hallmark Lifetime movie, feel free. Crazy Rich Asians. I did not understand what the hype about this film was. It was nothing that you would not see any night of the week on the Lifetime channel. It was like, when people ask me, do you like chick flicks? I go, well, I mean, I like the good ones. And they'll say, well, like what? I'll be like, well, like When Harry Met Sally. Well, that's not a chick flick. Okay, then I don't. Then I don't like chick flicks. This was a chick flick. It was just a chick flick. And again, I didn't understand the point because at the end of the film, I'm saying to myself, I don't see how any of the characters changed. I don't see how there was an arc. You just sort of, and they were very, very stereotypical characters. And I didn't understand what the big deal of it. I mean, people seem to like it. I didn't get it. And that's my dishonorable mentions, which means we can finally get to my actual top 3 worst films of 2018.
Like
and again,
going through a checklist of movies you watched this year.
Dude, believe it or not, I still had a list. It's as I put this list together, I really do start out with a list of everything I've seen. And it's funny, I still had a big long list of things that I had seen. Some of them I actually liked. And I sit there and I look at what's left on the list, and I'm like, well, I can't put them anywhere, so sorry guys, you just go away. Yeah, I know it's probably a silly way to do it, but again, this is an hour-long podcast, so hey, let's, and again, there's some of them it's almost like I just can't not give a mention to because some of them are really good. So anyway, but these are not the ones that are really good. These are the ones I did not like, and again, I think some of these will actually be surprising. Number 3, First Man.
Do you question whether the program's worth the cost in money and in lives?
You're down here and you look up and you don't think about it too much, but space exploration changes your perception. And it allows us to see things that we should have seen a long time ago.
We have serious problems.
We've got this under control.
You're a bunch of boys. You don't have anything under control.
This was the story of Neil Armstrong, who was the first man on the moon, and it was a very competent film. Technically, it was very well done. You would very much believe that this was set in the 60s, in the time when it was supposed to be set. It is a brilliant looking film. There are moments when they absolutely positively capture the feeling of being stuck in like a tiny little rocket that seems like it's just held together barely with some screws and whatever, and it could just come apart at any second. You feel like you're in there. You get the claustrophobic feeling. It's a well put together film. But I walked out saying that was a masterfully done film that no one would want to sit through. And I know I'm in the minority because I know some people really liked it. I thought this was just unbearable. It was a film about characters who are not really pleasant, characters who are just sort of weird that you can't relate to in any way. And you're watching something that is just so stoic and cold and so hard to feel anything from. So it was a lot of work put into a film that I don't think anybody would really enjoy. But like I said, I think there are some that will. It's got that kind of art house feel to it, and some will be drawn to the look and feel of it and just the technical mastery of it. But again, I felt like it was 2 hours of my life, and I just could not feel a thing. It was a very tough movie for me to sit through, and I was I was looking forward to it, but I was very disappointed.
All right, fair enough.
Number 2, First Reformed.
Reverend Toller?
Yes, Mary.
You must come over. You must come over now.
Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
Can God forgive us for what we've done to this world?
Who can know the mind of God?
I don't even know that one.
This is, if you see the clip, if you saw the trailer, you'd say, oh, okay. It's about a priest who it takes place in the late 80s or early 90s or something, I think. Or no, actually, it might take place today. But it's in a town that's, like, again, that's sort of... In fact, yeah, it has to be a modern film because it's about a priest who is played by Ethan Hawke, who is kind of in charge of this church, and they keep calling this church the gift shop because it's one of those churches that's been around for hundreds of years. No one actually goes to it, but it is still open, and people will visit it just for its historic value. Meanwhile, there's like this like mega church down the street that they're sort of affiliated with. Well, the plot of the story is Ethan Hawke meets this couple. The guy and the young couple is obsessed with the idea of pollution, global warming, and it almost feels like it's not part of this film. Because the first part of this film had me totally intrigued. The cinematography was beautiful. The lighting, it's a very well executed film. I was really drawn in to the characters. But this young man is obsessed with environmental issues to the point that he thinks that the environment is just going to collapse, and his wife is pregnant, and we should not bring a child into the world. Okay. And at first they address this as, well, he is obviously depressed, unstable, and they try to help him the best he could. At the risk of spoiling anything, the film takes a hard turn halfway through, where Ethan Hawke now, his character, starts to absorb the same environmental concerns to the point where he becomes lunatic level obsessed and literally turns himself into like a terrorist.
What?
Yes. Like he literally, and again, spoilers, but I would not recommend this to anyone anyway. He gets so absorbed with this guy's concerns that he himself becomes not only an environmental terrorist, the guy, he finds a suicide bomber vest that the young guy had made. He takes the vest and he's going to blow the church up and everybody in it.
The mega church?
No. His own church, which just so happens to be filled with people from the mega church, the head honchos who he thinks are complicit in the destruction of the environment because they have connections to this corporation that pollutes.
Are we supposed to cheer for this person?
And I don't know what the point of this is. Right, exactly. Am I supposed to identify and feel for this person? It made no... And not only that, it's not only that they punched you in the face with this message. When I tell you that this film... It's like, there's a moment where all of a sudden it literally starts to feel like a public service announcement. Like it literally just becomes straight up propaganda about pollution. And it's like, and again, I don't mind. It started out as one kind of film, turned into something just totally wacky. And again, I was so crushed by this because it started out great. It really started out strong. Again, the performances were great. I was intrigued about what was happening. And then by the end, it's turned into something else. I'm like, what the hell is... And a person who seems perfectly sane. So they're trying to sort of sell me on the idea that the environmental issues are so bad that it would drive anyone crazy. Well, no, it really wouldn't. It wouldn't drive a normal person that crazy to the point where you're going to murder people. It literally just made no sense. I was so put off by it. I said, I can't. So yeah, that is my second worst, and it probably should really be higher, except the fact that it really was sort of a little indie movie that I figured no one's going to see anyway, so it's only number 2. But yeah, this was a weird one, and I just do not bother. Okay, but my number 1, and this one you might actually have an opinion on, and you might disagree with me very strongly.
Hit me.
Number 1, Ready Player One.
My name's Wade Watts. My dad picked that name because it sounded like a superhero's alter ego, like Peter Parker or Bruce Banner. But he died when I was a kid, my mom too. And I ended up here. Sitting here in my tiny corner of nowhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere. Except the Oasis.
Wow. That was your biggest stinker of the year, huh? Liam, I'm sorry. Liam is no longer a fan of our show. He loves that movie. I'm just pointing it out.
And you know what? I would not blame him one bit, because this movie...
Is this your Get Off My Lawn movie?
Get off my lawn.
I don't think so. Maybe. Honestly, when I saw this, and I saw it twice, by the way, so I do feel pretty comfortable with calling it what I'm calling it. I didn't like it, and by the way, I should also preface, I didn't read the book, so I'm sure that you and a lot of people will tell me about the book, and I'm like, that's fine. I'm just judging the film.
You can't judge the film based on the book. That's not how it works.
No, it's just, right. It is what it is. When I saw this, first of all, again, this is the point of the film I found to be strange, where this is about people who are again, society is so run down, and so, everybody's living in poverty, where we're living on, these trailers just stacked one on top of the other, and everyone is trying to just escape their lives for a while by going into what is known as the Oasis. Fair enough. And that is probably I would think that that's a commentary on what we're doing today, by escaping into social media and all this other stuff that we distract ourselves with. Well, okay, but the film sort of takes this other turn where it's like, no. We're not saying that the Oasis is bad. We're actually saying that the Oasis is great. We love this virtual world. We want to be in it all the time. We don't want to pay attention to real life. And that's that. So they fight for the Oasis. At the end, they're like, Oasis rules or whatever.
Except Thursdays and Fridays.
They're still living in squalor. Yeah, except for Tuesdays and Thursdays. I hope, that those aren't the days you have off from work. And it wasn't even so much the overall theme. Again, it was almost like it was like the reverse Matrix, where instead of trying to get everybody out of the Matrix, we're trying to get everybody the hell in there and stay there. And again, I didn't quite... the bombardment of references to pop culture... again, I didn't mind it so much, but the visuals were just... This was sort of like... if you're going to complain about, the massive nonsense and like Justice League, the big CGI, just crap everywhere, the way the DC... Well, this was just 2 hours of that. Every time they were in there, I felt like I was just bombarded with stuff, and I couldn't see what the hell was going on, couldn't see what's where. So, and again, I didn't feel like the pop culture references contributed. Like part of me I feel like I should be the guy who go, oh, The Shining, that's a great movie. They did The Shining. Okay. But they did it in a very superficial sort of way, and I don't really understand how The Shining pertained to this story. It was almost like they could have picked any classic film, gone in and recreated scenes from it, and then we would have moved on. I don't see how The Shining pertains to this. So I kind of felt like everything in it was just kind of, let's throw in this, let's throw in that, let's throw in that. It doesn't really amount to anything. And again, I just didn't like the overall themes. I didn't like the idea that it was almost like at every turn when they had a chance to sort of say something that should have some meaningful impact, they did it wrong.
Or they backpedaled.
Again, right. For example, he meets the girl inside, right? Now, of course, they have the avatars. They can all look pretty and stuff. And again, this is something we've seen before. Okay. And then he meets her. And she sort of says, like, don't get too excited. You wouldn't like me in real life. I'm not as sexy and pretty in real life. So, and I'm thinking to myself, like, now all the girl gamers at home who are, maybe a little chunky or not the most prettiest thing in the world, they're identifying. Then suddenly he meets her and she's adorable. She's got a tiny little shade on her eye of a birthmark. And this is her, you're, like that's why she should be wearing the Phantom of the Opera mask. No. I mean, come on. And so I'm all those chubby gamer girls are looking at this going like, screw you, movie. And then there was like another scene later when, again, the evil guy, the evil corporate guy, who's just evil in corporate because he's not cool. I mean, there's a literal point in there where he tries to catch him on some sort of like, pop culture reference, and he can't do it. So he's like, "Oh, you're not cool," Okay. But again, we don't want the corporate guy to get it because he's going to use it to sell ads and make money, as opposed to, I mean, doesn't it already generate? I mean, they already spend actual money to be in here and to do stuff in here, so it's already making money. So I'm not understanding that message. And then there was a point at the end where the guy shows up. He was going to get the kid, right? And he chased him all the way to his house, and this bunch of people stand up. Oh, no way, you're not going to get past all of us. Well, what does he do? Pulls out his gun, and that ocean just parts like the Red Sea. Whoops, goodbye. Go ahead, go kill him. We don't care. And I'm like, so again, it was like every time I was waiting for something to feel good about, it did the other thing. And I'm like, yeah, I get, it's just not, A, it's just not for me, and B, I did not like the messages that this thing put forward. And it was very disappointing, and I could feel that sort of Spielberg, I don't want to say magic, but there was a sense of marvel at what he was doing with this. But yeah, boy, did it just fell flat. And seriously, the end, the idea that, well, let's again, long live the Oasis. Let's all just live in our hovels and plug into this virtual. Let's all get fat and sick and whatever. And plus, and even just the mechanisms, I couldn't. It was very frustrating. Sometimes people are running down the street because they're running in the Matrix. Sometimes they're jogging in place at home. Sometimes, I mean, it just, all of that stuff never synced up. It didn't work. It didn't make any sense. There was no rhyme or reason about how, so I couldn't even get really attached to that. So there wasn't really even ground rules in this film. So yeah, swing and a miss. And I really, and again, it's probably, is this a worse movie than like Venom or Tomb Raider or The Spider's Web? I honestly, like I said, First Reform, I found to be much more offensive, frankly, than this. But again, that was just a much smaller movie. This one was like the masses saw this. And I kind of felt like this really, again, just had really wrong messages. And again, it's probably the kind of thing where you say, dude, take it easy. It might not be your cup of tea, but some of us liked it because we like the pop culture references and we enjoyed this or that. I get it. But it is one of those films where if you're going to take the time to break it down, the messages are not good. I really just found it to send the wrong messages to people.
Dude, I can't even blame you for it, to be honest with you. And I even remember when we were discussing about it that, like, dude, I don't think this movie was really speaking to you. It's speaking to people like me. And granted, it didn't do it perfectly in any stretch of the imagination. And I felt that a lot of the themes that the book was trying to get across, it didn't actually get to, or just glossed over it in a very bad way. So yeah, I'm not gonna complain about that, man. That's absolutely fine with me. You be you. You be you.
And that's it. That's my 2018.
Have you figured out what music you're gonna play when you do it?
I think I'm going to stick to my usual.
Okay, that works. Well, dude, that was tremendous. Nice.
Thank you.
You covered a lot of movies this year. Bravo.
Yeah. I tell you, I really did. I think I saw more movies this year than I can remember. I mean, I saw most of the things that I wanted to see and then some.
Good.
So yeah, I really did cover a lot this year movie wise, and I tell you too, it was, it's funny. The last 2 years, I think both times I said I genuinely was struggling to find bad movies to put on my negative list. I had no trouble this year. There was a lot. There was a lot of good stuff, but there was a lot of crap this year.
Indeed. Well, bravo, sir. You kind of set the bar very high for me next week. Thanks.
Very welcome.
Which is now what I have to tell the audience. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, Joe has had his turn. It's my turn next week. And
it's all on Dave.
Yeah, no pressure or anything like that. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be quite as complete as Joe was, but I'm going to do my best. So that is the next show. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, Joe, freaking phenomenal.
Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to everyone out in the audience. Thank you for watching and listening to our show.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.
Hey everyone, my name is Wade Watts. Here in the future, everything sucks. Our houses suck, our home life sucks, even our beds suck. So unlike in your time, we play video games to escape. Whee! I'm escaping! Everyone's favorite game is the Oasis. You can be or do anything. Go hang gliding in a hurricane or hang out with Batman. Because I'm rock climbing. And that's me in the game. I like to bounce when I walk. Any hints on winning the race? Backwards. Anything at all? Backwards really fast. I could really use a hint. Go backwards in the race. I'm laying it on really thick. I got it. I can't believe nobody ever tried this. What? Hurts. I did it. I won.